Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Well, last week, Nicola Mitchell from Life Scientific was announced as the winner of the 2020 EY Entrepreneur of the Year competition, and I'm delighted to say that she joins me on the phone now to discuss the win and building a multinational company. Nicola, many congratulations on being announced as the winner of the EY Entrepreneur of the Year award for 2020. So what does this award mean to you and the team at Life Scientific?
Well, it means everything to us, really. And, you know, it's not for awards we're on this journey, but it is nice sometimes to be acknowledged, especially when we work in an industry that isn't maybe as sexy as Google and, you know, Facebook and these ones. And so the agricultural and scientific side of things is so underrated.
Before we do discuss your business, why do you think that the agricultural sector is so underrated here in Ireland?
People take food for granted, you know. We, the country of famine, you know, and I remember years ago a guy in a conference asked me, Nicola, he was Finnish, he said, how does it feel that you had 8 million people and it went to 2? You know, how does that make you feel? And he was clearly enraged. And, you know, these things that we do, which are the chemicals, the agrochemicals, they're working against ergotism, they're working against malaria, you know, they're preventing famine, and you know, there's so much potential in what they do, and are used, you know, only when unavoidable, and you know, it's science, and it's not scientism, meaning it's not the only, and it's certainly not the authoritative worldview, but with science, if you can understand nature and if you can unlock some of the secrets of it, you can maybe use and lever nature to support you in feeding this 7 billion people, which otherwise we'd without science would only feed 3.
Nicola, I'd like to take you back to the early 90s when you identified an opportunity for an agri-based business. That would become Life Scientific. What was this idea and how did you identify the opportunity?
Well, I'd worked for 10 years for Barclay Chemicals Limited, so it's a wonderful entrepreneurial company, and I had been recruited at that stage as a chemist into the business, a family business, to coincide with the introduction of statutory legislation of licensing agrochemicals, both in the UK and Ireland. So, you know, I got sent off to France or Germany or wherever, and got sent off to build labs. So it was a wonderful sort of sink or swim or learning environment, working off a green field. So you learn very quickly and rapidly, and it was a whole new field, this regulatory area, really hugely new and a really important field. And the owner at that time would say, you know, the ability to be able to license these things was the future. That was the access, the market access, the key to value and unlocking value in the industry. So I got into the mode of really understanding it and perfecting it and fine-tuning it and developing capabilities, especially in the hardest of areas. And, you know, I would have said that at that stage, the generic sector of the industry, you know, we have big multinationals who have 6,000 scientists, but the generic sector had very little science. And at best, it had multinational type science, which wasn't really the right sort of science which we have pioneered, which I call off-patent science. So yeah, I spent 10 years learning the trade and set up a campus company on UCD campus, starting to develop a particularly difficult scientific study that needed the best chemists, the best technology, which we had access to on the campus, and GLP certification, it's good laboratory practice certification, which was an OECD certification that was really, really difficult, if not impossible, to get in Ireland. So yeah, I didn't set the bar low in terms of challenges for ourselves.
So if we fast forward to the present day, Life Scientific now has over 60 products and is on course for a €1 billion valuation over the coming years. But ultimately, what do you attribute this overall success to?
Hard work. It's you know, and I would have hoped we could also say that we have a respect for human beings. So it's nothing at the expense of human beings, but it's always, you know, so as one of the other finalists said, you know, that intelligence and talent is overrated, you know, and it's all about attitude. So you do need, let's just say, character maybe, and that really means hard work. That you know, you just have to, you just persevere. You have resilience. You know, the harder the knocks, the stronger you become.
What was the hardest knock that you had to suffer along the way?
Well, for 20 years we were offering this R&D, this as a service into the industry. And it was hand to mouth. It really was. We were originating all the time without ever getting the benefit of those originations, or so we had always in our mind's eye to pivot the business to be a product company and not a service company, and we did that. In our first product was in 2012, and we went from 2 million revenues to 60 million revenues in 7 years.
That is quite incredible. Now, as you say, the company places significant emphasis on R&D activities, but typically, what processes does Life Scientific follow in this regard?
Well, we follow our own sort of processes underpinned by huge scientific disciplines, but I think a good example might be we decided that wouldn't it be great if we could reverse engineer the equivalent of the Coca-Cola recipes in our industry. So these are confidential formula, these secret formula that multinationals adopt that help these products to work and optimize how they are penetrated by the plant and all of those things. And everybody in the industry was telling us this couldn't be done because it is technically very challenging. And, we decided, we weren't going to live with the results of the multinationals thinking, and we had a healthy respect for the way they operated the business. But we felt, look, we need to do this. There would be huge value to us, and especially to the farmers, if we could replicate or clone the multinationals' technology. So we would do it in a way that would be much more fast, efficient, and cost effective. The equivalent of sort of developing a high throughput, really, the equivalent of 3D printing of clones of the multinationals products, which we could offer for less money. So there was a huge motivation for us to do it, and so we just put our heads down, and we, the right people came along, the right capability came along, the technology advanced to the extent that we were able to do it, and we did it, and so it's a great story for us to remind ourselves that impossible is nothing really, and we just have to practice doing impossible things.
So in terms of sourcing the required R&D skills, are these easily accessible within the Irish market, or have you needed to look internationally?
Well, we have a sort of dichotomy in the business. We've linked in with a lot of the multinational people based largely out of France. They're ex-multinational people from Rhône-Poulenc, a French multinational, and they elevate us. So they allow us to understand how corporates work, because we've always wanted to build big. We've always been preparing ourselves to really become a multinational, a global Irish headquartered multinational, and that was that. But really, we couldn't have done it without the local talent here, which is there's a fertile feeding ground of wonderful Irish chemists. We couldn't be more fortuitous, and certainly working off the campus of UCD gave us access to the best and the most plentiful of wonderful Irish scientists. So I don't think I could have done this from any other country in the world. I'm really proud to say that.
Well, that's certainly great to hear. Now, Nicola, what stands out to me about you, I have to say, is back in the 90s when you were dreaming up this business first day, your vision starting out was for this company to become a multinational. Who instilled that vision with you at that particular time, and why was that so important?
Yeah, I think I was heavily influenced by my father, who was a chemist also. And he was disenfranchised because he worked in a multinational. He would have said that, multinationals are their fur-lined mousetrap, Nicola, and, you need to escape. And, he was entrepreneurial, maybe. That's really the way of the world. And from an early age, he sent me to France to learn French because a single market was coming. And he said, Nicola, you need a second language, at least a second language, and do that. And then you need to do an MBA, Nicola, and then you need to set up a business, Nicola. And I often think, was it his dream I'm living? But absolutely, I don't believe for a minute it was his dream. I just think we had the same dreams, and we wanted to build something that was maybe unique and reflected Irish values and our Irishness. And I was inspired as well by a long line and very strong line of women on my mother's side. And they gave me examples all through my life of how of doing this and of breaking glass ceilings and and following your dreams and all of those things, and honouring who you were and having integrity and not buying into other people's definition of success or other people's expectations of how you should live your life.
And Nicola, in terms of how you went about cultivating international success for Life Scientific, what did our pathway look like?
Well, we were an exporting company from the get-go, so the industry is quite a global one. And, from even since the 80s, I was going to Brighton, which was where their global conference was, and you'd meet the Chinese, the Australians, South Africans, the South Americans, it was all there. It's quite an intimate industry in that sense. So it didn't feel like such a big step any time. And the multinationals are the same throughout the world, and the rules are largely are often OECD linked, so the regulatory rules. So it didn't feel like a huge step. But our first really foray was probably France was the biggest step and first step for us after the UK. We're currently making submissions now into South and North America. So in that sense, we can do a lot and more easily in this world of hyperconnectivity.
And one civil lawsuit against regulators in Germany over delays in granting licences for Life Scientific's products. Such litigious actions must have proved challenging for you both on a personal level and the company as a whole.
Well, I think with some things like this, you choose them. It's different if you're getting lawsuits from multinationals, where you're in the spotlight. But we were choosing these. We were taking the initiatives with these things, and somebody's had to step up and do it. And I was always fascinated by how the courts dealt with science. So that was one of the other reasons we decided to have clones. So if we had identical products at a molecular level to the multinationals, then any court case could only ever really be about competition. So why can you license one product and then not the identical one, and why is it taking you so long? And that can then you expose really what the underlying issues are if you can take the science out, because the science makes everything quite confusing, and it certainly confuses the legal system in my view. So we had simple propositions for the court cases, but we could have won in any number of ways, but we won on the delays way, but there's ongoing issues to be had. But I feel it was really important work, and it really provides for the single market that we all signed up for. And you can't have, Germany is the home of the three big multinationals in our industry. It doesn't entitle anyone to undermine a single market or not to engage in reciprocity and competitive single market for farmers.
And Nicola, I know that you have yet to receive the damages awarded to you, and I've acknowledged that you may never see this money, but why was this such an important victory overall for you?
Well, it allowed us to set up a business in Germany. So 2 years ago, and we're 10 million in revenues now. And so the German farmers really appreciate multinational quality for less cost. So there's a gap, there's a need, there's a crying out, more so now than ever before for competitive. So we're really pleased with that business, and we as I said, we wanted behavioural change. So the applications we're making for licences are being processed much more quickly these days. So it's wonderful for that and for everyone,
Nicola, you've built a phenomenally successful business, now employing 82 people, but why are we not seeing more startups operating in the agri sector right now?
Oh God, Karl, and I was saying to you a little bit, I'm a one-trick pony. I don't know much about everything, but I know a lot about this area. So why aren't we? I think maybe companies like ourselves will foster, and certainly the company I worked for fostered many industries around there. And Elan days, there were quite a lot of spin-offs for pharma. So I would have said it's a part of our evolution. And hopefully, we did have a big vacuum when all the dot-coms came in and sucked up all of our young creative blood. So hopefully that will redress, and everybody will recognise that maybe some of the traditional scientists have an important part to play still.
And Nicola, looking internally, have you any entrepreneurs working within your own business that could at some stage maybe set up their own business within the agri sector?
Absolutely, but what I'd hope, this is my fervent hope, that our culture here is so entrepreneurial that it will feel fully fulfilled, and that we can be almost like a sort of a microcosm, or some sort of a fertile sort of ecosystem that will allow them to really spawn and grow from within. And I feel, I think the way the multinationals do their big research programs, it's very much, it's like, they kind of confine them through standard operating procedures, templates, forms, and they shackle them. So I would love to build a culture here whereby, we have all pods and different areas of expertise, and they can just develop themselves, and we can therefore then land some of the biggest and best of the innovation. So we'll have the benefits of not being, coming from nothing and no resources, and then we'll be able to link that in with all the ingenuity that these young people have. But we'll be able to bring some of the the more mature and systems and approaches that allows some of these great ideas to actually land and see in the world and scale in the world. So I hope all those bright budding entrepreneurs stay with us, working with us along the journey, and that we give them enough latitude for that.
And Nicola, if any of our listeners this morning are considering starting a business in the agri sector, what advice have you got for them?
Well, don't give up on your dreams. Don't listen to people who tell you, no. So just honour that, inner voice and be true to it. And it mightn't happen the way you plan, but it will happen for sure. It'll happen for you. And
is there any particular niches in the market that they should be looking upon?
There's all of the drones. There's all of the precision ag. There's all of I was listening to a conference this morning with Brexit. The UK might start changing the licensing rules for it's not GM, but it's close to that. It's gene editing. So there's wonderful things happening. Huge technology, not in terms of the science, not just the IT side of things. And one day for sure in our business we'll be able to go direct on farm, and the blockchain will manage the contract. The pricing. Blockchain will manage the reputation. And it'll manage the payment, so you'll really get a direct system that will allow everyone to take cost out of the channel to the benefit of farmers.
So one nugget that I'm taking from you this morning for those listening that are considering starting a business in the agri side is to keep a close eye in terms of what's happening from a regulatory perspective.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You couldn't have said it better.
And Nicola, in terms of future growth plans for Life Scientific, I know that you have a big, audacious goal for the business over the coming years. What's in store for us?
Well, you see, we've been very slow in retrospect, so we've been organic in the way we've grown, and so now we can reliably and predictably to tell you the future that we expect to create, which is to be 250 million turnover by 2025, and that's just rolling out into new markets and doing more products using our sort of developed and developing platforms. So it's nothing, there's no big, leap there to make. It's just a rolling out of what we have, and it's organic in terms of the growth we see.
Nicola, my final question for you this morning is to get an understanding, are you building Life Scientific to keep it or to sell it over the next number of years?
So I suppose definitely not to sell it. In Stanford, they tell you your first business is your best one. And anyway, I wouldn't know what else to do. But what I want to do is build a global multinational. I've said that. I've said it all the time, consistently. And so I might end up with 15% of the business or whatever, but I'm not being pushed off this road.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Nicola Mitchell from Life Scientific, this year's EY Entrepreneur of the Year. And we wish Nicola every success in reaching her €1 billion valuation.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast